Hello, and welcome to this beautiful episode about nouns. I will start very easy, and it might get more and more complicated as you go. You can stop whenever you feel like it. So depending on your level, you might just want to hear the first part and keep the rest for later. But first of all, let's start with a noun. What is a noun? Or substantiv, as it's called in Norwegian. And by the way, you can find the transcript of this episode, normally in the description of the episode. So it might be good to follow, at least when I start using Norwegian words. So let's dig right into it. A noun is a word that you can put a or the in front of. That's the easiest explanation. Sometimes people will say that a noun is the equivalent of a thing, which is often true, but not always. So a cat is also a noun, which is not a thing. So creatures as well, and also abstract ideas, activities can also be nouns. But then you have to be careful, because activities could also be a verb. So for instance, if I say a dance, then it's a noun. But if I say I dance or I like to dance, that's a verb. It sounds the same in English, but it's different. In Norwegian, you would say en dans, a dance, that's the noun. Jeg danser, I dance. So you see there's a difference. You have a different ending for the verb. So it's easier to distinguish a verb and a noun in Norwegian than in English. Other examples of nouns are a cup, a house, a thing, a street, a person, a country, an idea, a spider, love, even though you normally don't put a in front of it, you could, theoretically, or the love, maybe that's easier. Respect, you don't normally say a respect, but the respect. So for some nouns, normally you wouldn't put a in front of them because it's something abstract. It's not something you would count. Okay, you wouldn't, if you're not able to count it, normally you wouldn't put a in front, but it's still a noun. So then you can test if you can put the in front. Okay, I think you get it now. Now, what's the difference between English and Norwegian when it comes to nouns, and why is it important to talk about? In Norwegian, we do not have the article, what we call definite article, the. It doesn't really exist in Norwegian. Or it sort of exists, but not really. Not for nouns. So when I want to say the something, instead of putting the in front, I will put the in the end of the word, or the equivalent of the in the end of the word. And in Norwegian, we don't have in Norwegian, we have 3 genders, which is weird, because, well, it's logical when you talk about things or concepts that have gender, like people, a girl, a woman, a man, then it's logical. But then when you talk about things that do not have that, like love and a cup, it's weird. But it's called grammatical gender, which means that it doesn't necessarily need to be related to an actual gender of the thing you're talking about. And since nouns have gender, it will also affect the shape or the form of that noun. So, for instance, the article a, in English you have a and you have n, depending on whether there's a vowel or not in the beginning of the noun. In Norwegian, you have to know what kind of gender the noun is. So you can't guess it. Normally, you can't guess it. You just have to learn it. So, for instance, masculine nouns would use en. So a cup, for instance, which is masculine, is en kopp. A phone is masculine, en telefon. Yeah, and of course, man would be masculine, en man. Now we also have feminine nouns, and they would start with ei, ei. So you would say ei jente, a girl. Ei bok, a book. Ei lampe, a lamp. Now, of course, I'm giving you easy words here, so you can focus on the grammar part and not the vocabulary. And then last one is neuter, which means no gender. For instance, you have, let's start with ett språk, a language. So language is neutral. Ett hus, a house. Ett glass, a glass. They are all neutral. And you will also see the impact of the gender when you want to say the something that you have only one of. Okay, so it's only when you talk about one thing, the house, the car, the phone, not the cars and the phones, but the car, the phone. Then you will see the impact of the gender. But it's not too complicated. For the masculine nouns and the neuter nouns, the only thing you have to do is put the article in the end of the word. So, en telefon is a phone. And how do I say the phone? Telefonen. You see I added n in the end. En telefon, a phone. Telefonen, the phone. So it's quite straightforward. It's a little bit different for neuter because you will add the article, but you won't pronounce the T in the end. So you would say ett hus, a house. Huset. You write it with et, but you do not pronounce the T. So ett hus, a house. Huset, the house. Let's take another one. Ett glass, a glass. Glasse, the glass. Okay? Now, the final one is feminine, and I kept that for the end for two reasons. So, first reason is because we do not end with the article, but it's something similar. If you think about it, the article, when I say I, that's the article, I. That sounds a little bit like the first letter in the alphabet, doesn't it? A. It's a little bit more open. I, like ei lampe, a lamp. I. And if you think about that, it's similar to A, B, C, when you pronounce it. And also, the letter A is also a very feminine letter. It's used very often in the ends of feminine names like Maria, and what else do we have? Christina, Teresa. And that might help you remember that when you want to say a feminine noun, you put A, the letter A, not the article I, E-I, but the letter A. So I would say ei lampe, a lamp. Lampa, lampa. That's how you pronounce the letter A in Norwegian. Same thing you say when you're at the dentist. Lampa. Okay? Now, this noun already finished with an E. I'm not going to add A to E, so I'm taking away the E and putting A instead. So instead of saying ei lampe, see? E. I'll put A. Lampa. Lampa. Let's do another one. Book. Ei bok. This doesn't have any vowel in the end, so it's maybe easier to hear. Ei bok. A book. How do I say the book? Boka. Boka. And why is book feminine? No idea. Maybe it's a feminine thing to read books. I don't know. I don't think there's a good explanation for it. You just have to learn it. And if you're a Latin language speaker, then you might get confused sometimes, because very often the words that are masculine will be feminine in Norwegian and vice versa. But a good thing to know is that you don't have to use the feminine version if you don't want to. So all nouns that are feminine can also be inflected or shaped as if they were masculine. So instead of saying ei bok, if I want, I can also say en bok. And then instead of saying boka for the book, I would rather say boken. And this is a good thing to do for many reasons. First of all, because Norwegians don't always consistently use the feminine form in two ways. First way is that all nouns that can be feminine, they might not treat them all like feminine. They might use some of them as feminine and some as masculine. So that's one reason. And the other one, even for the words that they treat as feminine, they might not use all the different feminine forms. So they might say, for instance, en bok. En is the masculine article. But then they say boka using the feminine ending. So to make it easier for you, you can choose just to use the masculine ending. And using that ending an article. And if you do that, you will also make it easier for you, because whenever you meet a new word and you don't know the gender of that word, you can take a guess at masculine, and in most cases it will work. So you have a bigger chance of being right or guessing right. So now, why is it like that? Why is the feminine form disappearing? You know, we even have a dialect in Norway, bergensk or bergensk, from Bergen or Bergen, where people do not use the feminine version at all. It doesn't exist. And there are historical reasons for that, many different reasons for that. And one reason that has affected not only Bergensk, but all of the dialects in Norway, is the time when Norway was under Danish power, from the middle of the 1500s to 1814, when Norway gained its independence. And that's why we're celebrating the 17th of May. But during all those years, the written languages in Norway was Danish. And Danish, modern Danish, or the Danish at that time, and the modern Danish doesn't have feminine gender. So the bokmål, the language the written language that you're learning, was based on Danish. So it's like a Norwegianized Danish. And that is probably the main reason why the A ending for nouns is considered as something that is more informal, like more used in spoken Norwegian and not as much in written Norwegian. Even though you use the feminine conjugation or inflection, you might not use it when you write. It's getting more and more normal to use it, but it still has some. It's still looked a little bit down upon to use in like scientific texts, for instance, or official documents. They don't use the feminine as much as they would use the masculine. Okay, we've talked about genders. We've talked about how to say a and the something when you talk about one, so singular. We've talked about singular part. Now it gets easier from now, because when you talk about plural or many things, many nouns, you don't have to, like many of something, you do not have to think too much about gender anymore. The endings will be, or can be, the same. So, we still have endings. We're still going to add something to the noun. We're not going to say the. Never say the. Okay? So, let's use the examples that I used before. En kopp, a cup. En kopp, koppen, the cup. Now, if I want to say cups, I add er. Kopper. If I want to say, I'm not going to use the example book because it's a little bit irregular. But let's use telefon. En telefon, phones. Telefonen, the phone. Now, how do you say phones? What do I add? Telefoner. Same ending. Telefoner. Okay, feminine word. Ei jente. A girl. Remember jenta? The girl. A. Now, how do you say girls? Jenter. Er. Same ending. This is quite straightforward because it's like in English, you put an ending, right? In English, you put S, in Norwegian, you put ER. So, you know that if you put S in English, you should just put ER in Norwegian. Let's do another one. Ei lampe. A lamp. Feminine. Lampa. The lamp. Lamper. Lamps, right? So lamper, kopper, telefoner. Okay, you get the logic. Now, I didn't mention any neuter words, did I? And there's a reason for that. Very often, the neuter or neutral nouns are very short. Most of them are short. And, well, I'm not going to say that most of them are short, but many of the ones we use a lot are short. And when you have a short neuter noun, so those two rules together, short plus neuter. And when I say short, it means one syllable. And when I say one syllable, it means that you can say it with one clap, one breath. So, tak, glass, kopp. Kopp isn't neuter, but it's short. Hus. Okay? So you can clap once. So that's one syllable. Two syllable words would be, for instance, jente. That's two. Jente. Lampe. Two syllables. Okay? So one syllable and neuter. When you have those two rules together, it's quite easy. You don't add anything. You just keep it as it is. Which means that the context would have to help you know that it is plural. Okay? It's like sheep. One sheep, two sheep, I think. Same. Says the same, but you get it in the context that you're talking about many. So, et hus, a house. To hus, same thing. Two houses. Et glass, a glass. To glass, two glasses. Et språk, a language. And what is two languages? To språk. Same thing. Okay? And now, final inflection. When I want to say the something that I have many of. So the cars, the languages, the books, the something something s. In Norwegian, we replace that with 3 letters in the end of the word. So the something something s, the houses, for instance, would be replaced by the ending enne, E-N-E, enne. So if I want to say the phones, remember the word for phone? Telefon. If I want to say phones, it's telefoner, right? If I want to say the phones, telefonene. Telefonene. If I want to say the cups, koppene. The glasses. Now it doesn't matter which gender it is, it's going to be enne anyways. So even though glass is neuter, that's fine. Glassene. The girls, jentene. The lamps, lampene. What else did we have? Husene. Okay, these are the basic rules that you learn in the beginning. 2 different things. If you've studied Norwegian for a bit, if maybe you're in the book På vei, you started talking about family. This rule can be nice to know about. If you have started talking about family, you might know the word for kid. Et barn is a kid. And logically, it's neutral because if you say kid, you don't know which gender it is. So that's kind of logical. Et barn, a kid. And normally you would add enne, right? When you say the kids, barnene, right? And you can say that, barnene. That's fine. You find it in a dictionary, but it's not very common to do. So you've probably met the version barna with an A ending. Barna. Just like the feminine ending. When you say the girl, jenta, or the lamp, lampa. So you might be a little bit confused, or maybe you said to yourself, oh, okay, barn is a feminine word. No, it's not. So this A ending has a different function than the A ending for feminine nouns. Okay? And it's very common for the word barn and for the word bein. Bein, et bein, means a leg or a bone. You don't necessarily need it right now. But what I want to say is that it's only those 2 words where normally people will never add enne in the end of a noun. It's only for those 2 words. And in general, people will always use enne, no matter the gender. But if you want, or not if you want, but if you sometimes discover A endings for words that are not feminine, the reason for that is that when you have a neutral word, a neuter word, neutral, neuter, choose whichever you prefer to use, like et hus, et språk, et glass, like the ones we talked about, instead of saying glassene, the glasses, husene, the houses, and språkene, the languages, you are also allowed to say språka, the languages, husa, the houses, and glassa, the glasses. You can, but it's not so common to do it. Except for the 2 words barn, et barn, barna, a kid, the kids, and et bein, beina, a leg, the legs. Apart from those 2 words, it's not something that's very common to do. So those are really 2, I would say 2 exceptions that you just have to learn, because nobody says barnene and beinene It's very uncommon to do. You can, but it's weird if you do it. So that was one thing I wanted to. That's one thing I wanted to say, and the last thing I wanted to say about nouns is that, of course, we have we also have irregular nouns, just like in English, where it can change completely. But most of the time, there will just be a change of vowel. So the vowel you find inside like the dictionary word, for instance, hus, right? Okay, hus is not indefinite, irregular. Like bok, right? The vowel is o. When you talk about plural, for the plural, it will change. The u will change to ö. So the ending, apart that, will be the same. The ending will be the same, but the vowel inside of the main word will change. So I would say, instead of saying boker for books, I would say böker. Still keep er ending, but I change o to ö. And when I say the books, I don't say bokene. I'll say bökene. So you have one vowel in singular, o, and then one vowel in plural, ö. And then, of course, there are some nouns that you just have to learn. They change a lot, like family words. Many of the family members, they change quite a lot. So that's something to focus on. Like en far, a father. Faren, that's easy. Until now, it's easy. But then plural, fädre, fädrene. That's quite different. And then all nouns finishing with er have some special endings as well, depending on what kind of noun it is. If it describes a person, it will be one ending, and if it doesn't describe a person, it will be another ending. That's the main rule that you can learn. I can make a separate video, separate episode on that. Nouns finishing with er. And the last thing I wanted to say to you, because a lot of you are gonna want to put the in front of the noun, and then you're gonna see something that reminds you of the, and you're gonna get super confused. So I'm gonna explain that to you right now before you start getting confused. So, for instance, let's take the word kopp. En kopp, a cup, koppen, the cup, masculine. You might see some people write den koppen. And you'll be like, oh, that's the same as the cup. No, it's not. Den means that. It's not a definite article. It's what we call a demonstrative. And what the function of den is to point out something. It's like you're figuratively or physically pointing at someone and saying that one, not that one, but that one, that cup. Okay. And notice that I don't say den kopp. I say den koppen. I keep the ending n. So what I'm actually saying is that, den, koppen, the cup, that, the cup. It's weird if you translate literally, but that's what you have to say. That, the cup, den koppen. So koppen is the cup, den koppen, that cup. Okay? I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you have a good day. Ha en fin dag. Vi høres.